Hello, I'm Amara Rasgus with Consulting Specifying Engineer. I'm excited to be here with Stan Everett, and we're going to talk about the number one building that most of our audience is working in, office buildings. But before we dive in, let me introduce Stan. Stan Everett is the managing principal of Salas O'Brien's offices in Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina. With almost 50 years of experience in designing and leading projects that require extensive coordination among several disciplines, his expertise, creativity, and attention to detail result in highly successful outcomes for clients in a variety of markets. He has specifically worked on numerous high-profile office buildings throughout the eastern half of the United States. Thank you so much, Stan, for being here with me today.
You're very welcome.
All right, so there's a lot to talk about here, but let's start with the biggest disruption. What is that big disruption or change that you've seen in the office buildings market?
Well, for decades, I guess, the trend in office buildings has been to reduce the real estate per person, or the square feet of allocated to each person in different spaces. But the global pandemic with COVID-19 has really changed that trend. People are not as comfortable sitting as close to each other without barriers between them. They're not as comfortable being in crowded spaces like break rooms at lunch and tight corridors and things like that. So there's been a kind of a reversal of that trend, and we've seen an increase in the area allocated per person in office buildings specifically. But that's also been offset by the fact that a lot of people aren't coming to the office now. The remote working is counteracting that trend some, and we really don't know where we're going to ultimately come out of this. Whether the area allocated for each person is going to increase or decrease ultimately. So that's still being determined, and I think it will continue to change over the next few years as we settle into the quote new normal. But that balance point will be reached soon enough, and I'm guessing that we're going to come out in about the same area we are now, with less more area per person, but fewer people. So I don't think it'll have much impact in the long run.
Sure. Yeah, that all makes sense. All right, so kind of looking ahead, how have building engineers and Salas O'Brien changed focus to accommodate and respond to the needs generated by that disruption?
Well, we at Salas O'Brien really haven't. We've been doing all of these things that a lot of people are focusing on now for decades. It's been part of our routine, part of our normal engineering services to try to improve the quality of the buildings that we design. However, building owners are increasingly more willing to consider and pay for upfront costs for system improvements that improve indoor air quality, improve the building environment overall, such as lighting and ventilation, things of that nature. So there's been more willingness on the part of owners and developers to spend the money to be able to then tell their clientele, their tenants, that they have a very high level of indoor air quality and a high level of environment that will make their employees more efficient, more effective, and happier to be in their spaces. Also, many existing building owners have been upgrading systems. That's one of the things that we saw early on in the global pandemic, was existing building owners coming to us and saying, what can we do to improve the quality of our environment for our tenants. And there's been a lot of focus in that area. Really hasn't changed what we've been doing because we've done it all along, but a lot of building owners now are looking to upgrade their filtration systems, upgrade to even going to electronic air cleaning systems, to upgrade lighting, to make more use of the daylighting and other things that make a space much more habitable.
Okay, so let's follow that trend of talking about building owners. What do they want? What's the number one thing that you recommend to every office building owner?
Absolutely, we recommend doing a building energy model and doing a life cycle cost analysis for the building. Once we've established that model and established the first pass at the cost analysis, we can then look at many alternatives for the owner with a minimal amount of work on our part, just by putting in different variables, and we can help them optimize their ventilation systems, optimize their lighting systems, optimize their energy systems, and really optimize the building, not just from a first cost standpoint, but from a life cycle cost standpoint. If it's a 50-year building, we can look at what the cost of that building is going to be over the life of it and help determine whether spending a little extra money now really pays off in the long run or not. Most owners traditionally have looked at a 2 to 4 year payback. Many of them are extending that to 5 to 8 year paybacks because they realize that the instability of the energy markets and the value of the quality of the environment are real tangible things that they need to be aware of and they need to take care of. And a little upfront money can oftentimes offset a lot of money spent in the future.
All right, Stan, you touched on this a little bit, but sustainability is a term that's increasingly becoming more important in all industries. How does it apply specifically in office buildings?
We're seeing a lot more sustainability being applied in office buildings, and I can give you several examples. We're seeing a trend toward green roofs. We're seeing a trend toward more efficient mechanical systems, more efficient lighting, more efficient even plumbing systems. Things in the electrical side of things, using LED lighting everywhere, using lighting controls, using daylight harvesting to even turn the lighting off when it's effective to use daylighting from exterior windows. In mechanical systems, high efficiency mechanical equipment, whether it's chillers or cooling towers or pumps or whatever it is, our efficiencies are getting better and our controls are getting more effective and better at minimizing energy usage in those types of systems. In plumbing systems, we're using waterless urinals or low flow plumbing fixtures to conserve water. We're even doing things like rainwater harvesting. We have a particular project I had a particular project in Charlotte, North Carolina, very large corporate headquarters for a national bank, that we utilized rainwater harvesting, collected it, did a minor amount of treatment, and used that not only for plant watering, but also for flushing of toilets and urinals in the building. So we used every bit of water that fell onto the site for use on the site in our gray water systems before it ever went into the city storm sewers, which also helps the city because they don't get overloaded storm sewers and big rains because we gather some of that. So it really is a sustainable practice. And the things I mentioned in heating and air conditioning, that particular building had central air handlers and had air distribution under the floor. and each individual in the space, every occupant could control the airflow in their cubicle or in their office themselves. So they had complete control, and it was a very highly efficient system, not only energy-wise, but also effectiveness in getting fresh air to the individual occupants. So things like that are really making buildings more sustainable. The use of recycled materials, the use of more local materials, and reducing shipping costs. All of those things are going into design and construction of office buildings.
Wow. So you touched on a lot of different technologies there. How has technology advanced or improved engineering?
Really, the technology has improved for the buildings themselves, but also for engineers. We have a lot more computing capability than we did 50 years ago when I started in the business. I was still using a slide rule back then. Scientific calculators didn't come out until I had been in the business 2 years. So, but now we've moved into computer systems that we can effectively model a building in advance and predict very accurately how that building will react to different environmental conditions, how it will react to different occupancies, what kind of energy it'll use, so we can optimize the systems before we design them, not just design it the same way we did the last building. So it's really been a powerful tool for us, the automation that we've experienced. But then on the building side, our systems are becoming much more efficient because manufacturers have automated their manufacturing processes, their design processes for their equipment. The equipment has become more efficient. We have electronic controls now versus the old pneumatic controls and electric controls, and we have so much more controllability of the systems that it makes them more efficient and more effective. We're able to get more localized control to help the occupants. One of the biggest things is the wireless technology today. A building owner or a building operator can look at their mechanical and electrical systems, the operations of their building. It includes their security systems and fire alarm systems, all the systems in the building. They can look at them remotely from a tablet sitting in their living room or on vacation in Europe. They can log into their system and see how their building is performing and see what's going on. And oftentimes, if there's a problem in the building, they can solve it remotely. They don't even have to be at the building. So that's a really powerful tool in office buildings, in all kinds of buildings, but we've used it very successfully in office buildings to help the owners and operators. Of course, all of that improves operating costs. And then the wireless systems also, I think, play into the sustainability. We're starting to see buildings that don't have much wiring in them anymore because we can do so many things wirelessly that we don't have to manufacture the wiring, buy the wiring, install the wiring, and then if a tenant changes, they rip that wiring out and put new wiring in. With wireless systems, all of that goes away. So we reduce waste to the landfills. We reduce the initial construction costs. Just all kinds of ways that technology has really changed what we do, how we do it, and in a very positive way, change the end results.
Yes, definitely powerful and fascinating. Thank you, Stan.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, I've been speaking today with Stan Everett with Salas O'Brien. Thank you so much and goodbye.